If I could restart my 20s, I wouldn't change anything. I have exactly zero regrets from my 20s thus far. I'm 24 as I'm filming this video. However, there are a few mistakes that I have made that I would like for you to avoid. I'm assuming that you're younger than I am. Maybe you're 18, 19 years old, or even 20 years old, and you want to avoid making the same mistakes that I've made. Well, these are the biggest mistakes that I've made. Now, again, I have no regrets because these mistakes have shaped me into the person who's capable of passing forth this information to you. However, with this video, I want to pass forth all of the lessons that I've learned with none of the losses. That said, the first mistake that I've made in my 20s, the biggest mistake that I made in my 20s, not the biggest, but one of the biggest, was entering my revenge arc. What was my revenge arc? At the time that I turned 20 years old, 19 going on 20, I was dealing with this girl, and to make a long story short, things did not work out the way that I anticipated. As a matter of fact, she ended up ghosting me. Now, I had been ghosted in the past, but I had primarily been ghosted by girls who I wasn't truly interested in. This was the first girl in my whole life that I was truly, genuinely interested in and saw an actual future with. And within a month, she ghosted me. And I couldn't wrap my head around it. She told me at the time that she wasn't ready for a relationship, and retrospectively, that was probably the truth. Looking back on her behavioral patterns and her spectrum of emotions that she showed me during that month, she probably genuinely wasn't ready. But it didn't really matter because at that point in time, I perceived it as she didn't think I was good enough for her. Again, she never said those words, but that's how I perceived that rejection. And as a result, I made it my personal mission to level up so far ahead of her in life that she would go to sleep every night thinking about what a big mistake she made. Now, when I say this out loud in retrospect, it sounds stupid, but that's where I was at the time. And if you've been rejected, especially by somebody that you were truly interested in, or even just rejected by society as a whole, then you might be able to relate to that. You're probably walking around with a lot of resentment toward the person or the people who rejected you, and you want to make them feel inferior because that's how they made you feel, even if they did it unknowingly. I went through that whole arc, and unlike most young men, I actually completed the arc. Again, this happened right around the time I was turning 20, so March 2020 was the climax of that situation. Fast forward to March 2022, and I actually leveled up so much that I almost felt like interacting with her would be a waste of my time. Granted, there's a lot more to that story than I'm letting on, but that's a different discussion for a different day. The point is, I had that face-to-face interaction with her in real life, and even though there were no words exchanged, I received the closure at that time that I was looking for, egoically speaking, in that I closed that revenge arc. I had reached a point of satisfaction where I knew that I had become the one who got away. And because of that, because my motivation was so externally driven, all of my success disappeared literally by the end of that year. By the end of 2022, I went from living in my own nice, luxurious apartment, having a brand new BMW, having some designer clothes, some jewelry, things of that nature, all of the material items that a young man wants, to living in my car. Living in my car with probably $1,000 to my name. Why did that happen? Well, there are a multitude of reasons why that happened, but the primary reason is that my motivation was based on an external metric, an external reference point. In other words, her. And once I achieved that goal, I instantly became complacent. Instantaneously, I became very complacent, and I lost all of the success that I had worked so hard to obtain. Because my motivation was founded on resentment. I was moving from a place of resentment, and what I found is that while resentment can be a very potent source of fuel in the short term, generally it burns you out in the long term, and it always catches up to you. Now, the next big mistake that I made in my 20s, especially in my early 20s, is that I didn't invest enough into myself. Now, what do I mean by that? I spent a lot of money on YouTube equipment, getting new cameras, new mics and ring lights and things like that. But I didn't really invest that much money into my own personal development. I'm not talking about the gym. I'm not talking about taking cold showers and things of that nature. I'm talking about taking courses, joining masterminds, joining coaching programs or mentorships, things that the majority of the internet likes to believe are scams, but in reality are the key to success, especially success at a young age. You see, I'm a very stubborn person. That's something you might not know about me. I'm extremely, extremely stubborn. And anyone who knows me in real life can attest to this. I'm extremely stubborn. But while this has worked to my benefit as far as my work ethic goes, it's worked to my detriment in that I tend to have this I'll do it myself mentality. And this is good for taking initiative. This is a big part of the reason why I achieved that success, which I ended up losing later on. But it's bad because I don't go seeking out information in the way that I should, because I'd rather learn by doing. Big mistake. And to your credit, you are already taking that first step toward avoiding this mistake because you're watching this video. And in this video, I'm literally, like I said, passing forth all of the lessons without any of the losses. You don't have to take any of the losses that I took in order to learn these lessons. But YouTube is free. I would actually recommend spending money on courses, mentorships, masterminds, coaching programs, etc. If you can't afford any of that, purchase books. That is one thing that I did do, but I could have done a much better job of that. Invest money, not just time, but money into yourself. Why? Because a lot of times we think about the information as being free. Well, you can find the information for free on YouTube. And this is true. You can look up something on ChatGPT and it can give you the answers. The problem is, first of all, you don't know what you don't know. And because you don't know what you don't know, how will you know what to search up? You see, I've been learning a lot of different things in the past year because at 23 years old, I finally came to my senses and started investing in courses, and it's made a big difference because now I understand why I ended up going broke. Not just from an emotional standpoint, but from a logical standpoint. The information that I lacked, that if I had had the information, I would literally have touched multiple six figures by now. Instead, I'm having to rebuild my brand pretty much from the ground up because I lacked the information because I didn't want to spend $200 on an online course. $1,000, $2,000. I could have spent $5,000 on an online course a few years ago, and I would have saved myself thousands upon thousands of dollars that I ended up losing, and I likely would have made myself $100,000, $200,000, maybe even $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, etc. But because I didn't want to spend the money on courses because they're scams, I missed out on all of that information that I could have and should have learned much sooner than I did. And I paid the ultimate price. And if you're not investing in courses, if you're not investing in mentorships or coaching programs, masterminds, etc., if you're not investing in these things, you're paying the ultimate price as well. The ultimate price is time. You think you're saving all of this money by not purchasing these things, by not investing money into these things. But again, you don't know what you don't know. And that time that it's taking you to figure out what you don't know through trial and error, it's time that you can never get back. You can always make the money back. You can't make the time back. It took me far too long to internalize this. And I hope it doesn't take you any longer than today, the day that you're watching this, to internalize this. Now, the next mistake that I made in my 20s, this right here is probably the biggest mistake, is I succumbed to pornography addiction. Now, this is a very taboo topic that nobody likes to talk about. But if you're between 18 and 24, or if you're in your late teens, early 20s, etc., the chances are you struggle with this as well. As a matter of fact, I recently saw a study that indicated that 70% of young men between the ages of 18 and 24 struggle with pornography addiction. And rest assured that when I was younger, I was a part of that 70%. Okay, I was probably 5% of that 70%. 5% was literally just me. I was down atrocious. Now, to my credit, entering my 20s, I wasn't addicted, but when I was in that process of losing everything that I had worked for up to that point, I went off the deep end. I fell so far, so hard off of that wagon that by the time I got myself up and dusted myself off, the wagon wasn't even on the horizon. It was gone. It had left me. And so I had to build my own wagon. Now, in the future, in the near future, if I haven't already, I'm going to make a video talking more in depth about my pornography addiction and how it ruined my life and facilitated pretty much all of the L's that I've taken over the past couple of years. But if you're in that position right now, I'm not going to make you wait until I upload that video. As a matter of fact, I have recently created a resource to help you overcome your pornography addiction and leave lust in the dust in 15 minutes. And not only that, but it is free 99. I wrote a PMO relapse recovery guide. If you don't know what PMO is, this is PMO right here. I wrote a PMO relapse recovery guide specifically to help young men in your situation, to help that 70% join that 30%, to help young men like you overcome your addiction to lust, especially your addiction to pornography, so that you can take control of your life and avoid taking all of the L's that I've taken, so that you can achieve all of the success that I have in much less time. If you're ready to leave your lust in the dust and take control of your life, click the link down below, click the link in the description or the pinned comment of this video, and get your free ebook today.